What is happening with this name?
Well, living in San Francisco, the land of Tesla, it's like you said, it's insane. And I think what you have is a company with 130 or 40 million shares outstanding and 25 million shares short. And it's trading $30 or $40 billion worth of stock every day. So obviously it's lost its fundamentals. One thing we haven't mentioned, and you mentioned Volkswagen on the show, there was a very similar kind of eerie coincidence with that stock 3 or 4 years ago that your viewers should pay attention to, and they had this A's and B's stock, and that stock went parabolic for a couple of months and then kind of came back. And nobody knew why it went parabolic, and nobody knew why it came back then. I mean, we knew why it did, but nobody knew when that would happen. And we will probably see that at some point. Now, the interesting thing will be, does Elon Musk decide to raise some capital? They did a convert, if you remember, last year at much, much lower prices, which are way in the money. And seeing what they do with the balance sheet will be very interesting, because obviously fundamentals have been overtaken by rumor and innuendo.
We'll settle the rumor and innuendo in just a moment, but let's look at that 3-year chart. That move on the right side, as you say, cannot be justified. We can't sit here and rationalize the fundamentals. It's not as if everyone woke up at the start of 2020 and said, I get it, they're going to take over the auto industry. I should cover that short now. It all makes sense. But for the fundamentals, for the bulls out there, what is the big bet?
Well, the big bet is you have a company that's redefining the auto industry, which has been said many times. I watched the DeLorean movie on the way to New York yesterday. He tried that 30 years ago unsuccessfully, as we know, and that ended with, cocaine and bribery. So I'm not saying that's going to happen here, of course. But what they are betting is you had a luxury sedan that took the market by storm that, frankly, no automaker has been able to replicate 6 years later. Then you have a more midstream car, $35,000 to $50,000 car that is selling way better than anybody expected. And then you're going to get into more trucks, and you're going to get into more. It's a transportation company. That's what the bulls will say. Obviously, at $900 a share, that's way ahead of itself. I heard somebody on the TV say they'll have $1 trillion in sales 10 years from now. Well, I mean, it sounds like a biotech company that's going to cure cancer 10 or 15 years down the road. We have some clinical trials for these guys that still have to take place in other forms of transportation. If they get there, terrific. At today's numbers, Jonathan, that's not with the fundamental.
It feels, let's just say, frothy. Can we use that word?
I think that's
frothy.